So welcome everyone to Set the Stage for Success. Thank you very much for joining the panel. And thank you very much to our panelists for joining us, especially Gabi from the Playing Space, who some of you probably already know. And if not, you will know her very well by the end of this session. My name is Gabi Maddocks. I'm the Marketing and Growth Director at LoveAdmin, and I will be your host for the day. We also have Lauren in the background who's managing all of the questions and the technology. We have Michael McCausland from the LoveAdmin team, specialising in class and course providers. And we've got James Brooker, our strategic business manager, who some of you may have had the pleasure of dealing with already. And I will let Gabi introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself. Gabi, over to you.
Hello, everybody, and lovely to see some familiar names and faces among you. So for those of you who don't know me, I have been a speech and drama teacher for more than 20 years. I'll give you a little bit of background. I trained as an actor after completing my zoology degree, and then I met someone who moved to West Africa. So I followed him to West Africa, and when we came back to England, I decided not to pursue a career in acting. The shine had come off it for various reasons, and so I decided to train to be a child psychotherapist. And as a result of that, I needed to be working professionally with children, and I had loved my LaMDA speech and drama classes when I was a child, and so I decided to set up something similar myself. This was back in 2001. I also worked for lots of other sort of what I would call stage schools, working with children as well. But slowly but surely, my own little groups got bigger and bigger until in 2008, when I was pregnant with child number 2, my husband decided to give up his work. We formed the Playing Space together. At that point, our 5-year-old, our oldest child, was our 50th student. And we grew from there. We've now got, I've sort of lost track, but hundreds of students in various different spaces. We have our own studio here in North London. We go into schools. We do after-school clubs, we do LaMDA classes in schools. For those of you who don't know, LaMDA exams are graded examinations in speech and drama. So just as you can do exams in piano and ballet, you can also do exams in speech and drama categories, which would include acting, devising, public speaking, musical theatre, and the speaking of verse and prose. And so we now do a lot of LaMDA, but we also do other kinds of drama and festival work as well. I think that's enough of an introduction, isn't it?
It's a pretty nice introduction, a very varied background as well, Gabi, which is always very interesting to hear about. And can you talk to us a little bit about you've discussed about how you've been growing your business, and we know that obviously you've really done a great job of increasing the revenue for the Playing Space over the past couple of years. What do you think have been the key drivers to kind of build that revenue for your business?
So initially it grew through word of mouth. That was, we never really advertised. So when I talk about those sort of early days between sort of 2001 to 2008, when we went from 10 students to 50 students, and then a little bit beyond that, where we grew to maybe from 50 to 150 students, it was primarily our students telling their friends about our classes. But that got to a point where everyone in our local community who wanted speech and drama classes for their children probably already knew about the Playing Space. And so we kind of reached our capacity here. So I would say another key driver has been, I have a sort of attitude where if the phone rings and someone asks me if I can do something, I generally say yes, unless there's a really good reason to say no. And that's been how we ended up starting, after school drama clubs in schools, or going into schools to teach LaMDA, and a few other things that have just sort of come my way. Someone called me about this time last year, maybe sort of in March last year, saying they're coming over to England with a group of Italian students. Can we run some drama classes for them in the mornings? They're, you know, I think they just found me on Google. They were staying locally. And it was, you know, one of these trips, sort of Italian teenagers who were going to immerse themselves in London life for a week and go to the theatres and the museums. But they wanted to do something that would really help their English language, and they thought drama classes might do that. So I followed my instincts and said, yes, we can do that. Then I figured out how we could do it and who was going to do it, having never really taught English to students with English as a second language before. But we did some really good lesson planning, and I found a really good teacher to actually run the sessions. And that same lady has now booked 3 weeks of classes with us this summer. So I suppose going forward, what I'm trying to do more of, and what I've been talking to James about, is when an opportunity like that comes my way, instead of just saying yes to that one person, there's a slight sort of mindset change where you think, well, if this group of people or if this person wants this activity or this product, then the chances are that there are probably lots of other people out there who would also like it, but they just haven't happened to find me on a Google search. And so the next step after that is to actively go out and find those opportunities. Another example of a way that our revenue has increased was when, again, through a chance encounter with a colleague, we found out that there was a teacher leaving a school in central London where she had been teaching Trinity exams. It was half a day's work. They wanted someone who would be able to come in, who was very experienced with a smooth transition. And again, I said yes, found the perfect teacher for that particular situation. And that has now expanded to 4 full days of work in that one school. And that's happened for a few reasons. Primarily that this teacher has obviously done such a great job there that more and more students wanted to take part. I think there is also a general trend in curricular drama that not as many students are taking GCSE theatre studies and A-level theatre studies. I don't teach curricular drama myself, and I don't teach in a school, but that's what I'm hearing from lots of other people. And so I think students who want to keep going with their acting, but maybe don't want to do a theatre studies A-level, are choosing to do LAMDA instead, or Trinity, or one of the other speech and drama exam boards. And schools that have really good provision in those speech and drama exams are seeing a shift of students maybe moving in that direction. So again, my next move is, well, if this school have had such a good experience with us, how can I replicate that in other similar schools?
Yeah, it's a great approach. I was at an event last weekend where I was listening to a gentleman who'd been writing books about networking and the likes. And one of the things that really resonated with me was he was saying it's the smallest conversations and interactions you have that can lead to the biggest opportunities. And he says you don't even always have to be talking work and business with them. You just have normal conversations with them, and then something will crop up that suddenly springs to an opportunity that can lead to other things. But what you're doing by taking that singular thing and then turning it into something that's kind of scalable and repeatable, that's a great way, especially from a marketing perspective, to unlock new revenue. Have there been challenges at all along the way with kind of growing your business and using that approach?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, in relation to that, it feels very good and positive and encouraging when someone approaches you asking if you can fulfill a need, and you do it brilliantly, and it's a huge success. The problem comes when you try and replicate that and you're trying to get into schools and approach them and say, look, I've got this amazing product that's going to, be brilliant for your school, and it's going to be great for your students, and it will solve all of these problems, and it will be a mutually beneficial experience. And then you get no response, because it's very, very difficult to get into every single school that we are in at the moment. They've approached me. And so now trying to replicate that and finding ways into those schools, and being rejected or not having your emails opened or whatever, that can feel a bit demoralizing. So that is something that, we're working on our strategies for that. But I would say the other big challenge is just the amount of time that all of the administrative stuff takes, the answering the emails and the chasing parents for money and all of those things. And so it gives you less time to be creative and come up with the next idea. So again, something that I've been focusing on this year is reducing the amount of time that I spend doing admin, increasing the hours of my main admin staff to free up my time to do more of the creative side of things, building new products, building new materials, and that side of thing. I've also been expanding my teacher training area of the business as well, which we can talk about a bit later. But one of the ways that we've freed up admin time, apart from increasing the hours of my admin staff, is by switching from termly to monthly billing, which is my next major admin project, which is going to be launched very soon. Because what we find is that we have these sort of, we at the moment, we invoice parents half termly. So we have 6 times a year where we send out all of our invoices. And for parents who have signed up with a direct debit through LoveAdmin, it's fantastic. We click a button, and then, a few days later, our bank account is full. But it's quite a lumpy, in terms of cash flow, it's quite lumpy. We get these 6 big lumps, and then we've got to try and make sure that is spread out through the year. And the other thing is, of course, not all parents have signed up to this. So we also spend hours and hours sending out reminder emails, sending out text messages, and eventually actually having to pick up the phone and say, and it's not the parents don't want to pay, they're busy as well. And they have, lots of family life and admin to do. So I think the monthly billing will actually make life easier for them as well. And it will spread out. We have parents who have 2 or 3 children with us. So we're suddenly asking them for a lot of money. And we do get calls from parents saying, well, look, the clutch has just gone on my car, can we hold off until next week? So I think for parents at this time, it will also be useful for them to be able to spread those payments across.
And that's something that you've been working on with James, I know as one of the ways of helping to kind of reduce down your admin time. So it feels like a very neat time to segue into introducing Mr. Brooker, who joined our business. It feels like a long time ago, James, but I know that it's been under a year. He's joined us as our strategic business manager, coming with a wealth of leadership, operational experience from different companies, and he's been really transforming the work that he does with some of our clients, including Gabi, to either help grow revenues or improve efficiencies through the programs that he's been putting together for them. So James, would you like to introduce yourself to the people watching the panel?
Yeah, so as Abby said, I'm LoveAdmin's strategic business manager. My background is in operations, really. So my first job out of uni was helping to run an Amazon delivery station during COVID, which was an experience, I can tell you that. I then went to Aldi and helped to run supermarkets. So I was an area manager there for a year. And then I took over running a David Lloyd health club as general manager. I had a team of about 70 that were working for me there. Then decided that working 70 hours a week wasn't really for me anymore, and decided to come over to LoveAdmin and try and help as many organizations as possible to be a bit more efficient and to find new ways of growing. And what I find is there are so many different ways that organizations are able to grow, and so much of it is really, really simple.
Fantastic. And can you give us some advice? Like you've been working with quite a few different clients across different spaces, but obviously very closely with Gabi for performing arts. Can you give, what's the kind of key advice that you're giving to people at the moment when they're coming to you and saying, look, I need to be more efficient, or I'm looking to grow my business?
Yeah, so there's kind of 4 key points I would say that are, if you're going to do anything, is to have these 4 things at the heart of the decisions you make. And the first one is making decisions based on data, or certainly based on real hard information. So looking at classes that are doing well, classes that are always oversubscribed, looking at what customers are doing and how they're behaving in really simple terms will often help you to make the right decision. Often asking customers as well. A survey can do wonders, because rather than guessing, you actually know for certain what they want to do in a particular circumstance. And I think organizations are often a little bit afraid of actually just going out there and speaking to people and asking. Don't be afraid to try something new. The best businesses make brave decisions. It's okay to try and target a new market or do something that you've not done before that the competition isn't doing. Start small with it, but certainly be brave in looking into different avenues, and don't be stuck thinking, I've got to do what I've always done because that's what our business is. Keeping it simple, probably the most important one. Make it idiot proof. There is a thing as having too much choice. It's called the paralysis of choice, and often it will mean a customer won't make a decision at all if you give them too many options. You may feel like you're trying to help them. You're actually really just hindering yourself. And at the core of it, efficiency equals growth. So if you can have a really simple, efficient operation, you're more likely to be able to grow, and your customers will find it easier to interact with your business as well. And the other one's slightly more controversial. The customer isn't always right. You're the expert in the industry that you work in. That's the reason why you run a business. Teaching it and leading it, having that legitimacy is crucial to get your customers to operate in the way that you want them to and deliver the service that they want, but not giving them the full control, because as soon as you do that, you'll end up doing a million different things for a million different people and not really getting anywhere with it. Obviously, you need to follow what your customers want a little bit, otherwise you won't have a business, but don't change something because 3 people complained out of 500 members.
Okay, that makes sense. And can you give us any examples where, I know you've been working like the termly and billing monthly debate that I know we've been having internally as well. Have you got any examples of where you've kind of gone in with this kind of advice and seen people put it into play and seen what responses come off the back of it?
Yeah, so there was a swim school that we've actually completed this process with, but to be honest, the industry doesn't really matter with this type of thing, and it is sort of broadly applicable to any children's activity organisation. And as Gabi said, we're going to do similar with her coming into September, where the sentiment of the owner was really sort of against it. Well, we've always done termly. That just is what it is. Our customers are going to complain. First question I asked him, well, have you actually asked them what they think about it? No, I just know they're going to complain. Turns out they didn't. Only 3 people complained, and he has 650 members. And even those 3 people that complained have still signed up for the monthly billing, and they're still getting on with it just fine. So that kind of speaks to being brave and just trying this stuff. And the efficiencies that he's now got mean that he's been able to do so many more things with his business and look at different avenues that he can take to enable him to grow, because he hasn't got that pressure of he bills on the full terms. He hasn't got that pressure of going, okay, 3 times a year I need to devote all of my attention for 24 hours a day on making sure that I get all of these people signed up and paid, because otherwise I can't afford to keep the lights on.
And a lot of people, when they're running their business, they've got systems in place that they've been running for a long time, right? So what's the biggest pushback, I guess, you find when you're trying to talk to people about making changes and and kind of doing something a bit different than how they're quite used to and their team's quite used to doing?
I think change can very easily be seen as a big scary thing hiding in the wardrobe. Whereas if you can start to break it down into little elements, smaller elements of change, and make sure you, your team, and your customers understand each of those little steps, it becomes a much less scary thing to do. And as long as you have a real clear purpose, so I'm going to make this change because it's going to do this, and I can be reasonably sure I've got a high degree of probability that this change is going to lead to this outcome, then you know inherently what you're doing is the right thing to do. And it's just a case of communicating the why of what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, the goal of these types of organizations is to provide a really great service to children and to enhance their experience. So any change you make is going to head towards that.
Okay.
And if you can sell that, it'll help.
Gabi, I'm gonna point that back at you with regards to, obviously you're going through this process and you obviously have made a few changes with your business already. How are you preparing for change with things like monthly billing? How are you communicating that out to your team? You know, what's your plan of action there? Oh, and you're muted.
Rookie mistake. How embarrassing. We're going to start by sending out an email to parents. And I think, you know, one of the important things is we want parents to think that this is actually going to be something that's going to benefit them as well. So we will be spelling out the advantages to them of paying in this way, that it will be, because parents don't like to be endlessly chased, or you know, they sometimes find it embarrassing when they realise they've forgotten to pay the fees. Also, you have this problem where some parents don't check emails. I've had parents show me their phone and they'll say, look, they've got 6,732 unread emails. They say, there's no point in you emailing me, you've got to text me. So then we have the situation where some parents want to be texted, some parents want to be emailed, some parents say, why don't you WhatsApp us? So we set up WhatsApp groups, but then some parents aren't on WhatsApp. And so you've got this, you know, as James said, you can't please everybody all of the time. You have to have your system in place. So I think, you know, having that certainty. Having said that, there will always be some exceptions. So it's not that necessarily the customer is right. It's just that there may be a really good reason why they can't fall in line. One of those exceptions would be paying with childcare vouchers. So if you're registered as a childcare provider for holiday clubs or things like that, and you have parents who want to pay with childcare vouchers, they're not going to be able to do monthly billing in the same way. And there may be parents who are just going to dig their heels in, but they are high value parents. So for example, we have a family that send 3 children to us. They have been coming to us for years and years and years. That family, for whatever reason, choose to pay their fees the day that term starts rather than a month before, which is what's in our terms and conditions. And so, you know, with someone else, we might say, well, look, if you haven't paid your fees, we can't hold those places. But with this family, we have said, look, as long as you send us a text confirming in writing that your children are definitely continuing, we will make that exception. You can't make 47 different exceptions, but if there's a good reason, or if it's a customer that you really don't want to lose, maybe they've been recommending you to lots of people, they've been coming for many years, or you know, it's a big family or something like that, you may have to figure out a workaround, shall we say. James is nodding, I'm really pleased. I thought he'd be glowering at me. But you know, it's all about really you know, having a clear mindset, knowing what the why is, what is your ultimate goal, making sure. I feel like I sound like James. This is the result of my conversation.
This is great.
Making sure that all of your actions are pointing towards that goal, that ultimate goal, whatever it is. And for me, the ultimate goal is, because the playing space is my baby and I've been running it for more than 20 years, that everything kind of stops with me. And I feel like you know, all of the big decisions rest with me. And so that's what my ultimate goal is, to feel that it doesn't all rest on my shoulders. We have these amazing teachers and partners and administrators who all have brilliant skills. And I think that because I have been such a control freak for the last 20 years, they're almost a bit hesitant to say, well, look, I can take this off your hands, because, you know, there's this sort of shifting dynamic. When my administrator first started working for me, I was like, you know, looking over her shoulder every minute. If I found myself doing her job for her, because I had, you know, 5 minutes, and I start to sort of like, you know, fill out spreadsheets and do things that were definitely her job. And I've had to really stop myself from doing that. But at the same time, she has also had to say, I don't need to check everything with Gabi. You know, she's employing me because I've got a good brain and good initiative, and I can just get on with it, which is lovely.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm going to introduce Michael next, because we've spoken about communications, and that's something I wanted to hear from him about. So Michael has been working with the LoveAdmin team for a long time now. He's specialising in working with class and course providers. So obviously spends a lot of time speaking with performing arts and drama schools as part of that. Michael, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to everyone on the panel?
Sure. Hi, guys. Yeah, it's Michael. I've been working with LoveAdmin for coming up to 5 years now. As Abby said, I specialize in class and course type sector. So, you know, across the board, I suppose I would say I would be the first point of contact for, you know, individuals or clients or organizations who want to look at a system, who need some sort of help, or even just want to see what is available on the market. You know, one of the sort of big differences that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years is the customization that can come into softwares now. Traditionally, you know, where you would have your classes or your events or any of your offers listed down in a list-based format, that's much more customizable and adaptable to individual organizations now, and it can be quite an eye-opener for individual organizations when they see what they can actually do and see the options that are open to them. And that can include from filtering on the front end with any of those classes, events, any of their offers actually being customized and branded to their organization. And that can include not only, you know, picture and logos and colorations, but also even video content. So softwares have come on a long way over the last 3 years, and as I say, you know, that's part of the job I really enjoy, is showing that initially to clients who may not even be aware that that kind of customization is available from an off-the-shelf type system.
And that's really relevant to the communications part. I know Gabi said, and being in marketing, it's the same with me. You know, you can send something out to people and they'll swear blind that they haven't received it. And you know, even though you want to send it in one way, they might be looking at it another way. How do you encourage people to really build more engaging communications, so that the ones they are sending out are kind of getting that opened, and how can they, I guess, keep track of that?
Yeah, again, it's going through the options. The options are a lot more powerful now. So you've got your traditional emailing. A lot of legacy systems are text only, but you know, modern systems, it should be full and complete. So you can send links, attachments, pictures, videos, but also, you know, key to any sort of system was, you know, that it needs to be mobile first as well for the members or customers. Anything they need to be able to do with their phones. And, you know, sending a content can also be directly through to their online accounts, through to their phones. And again, that can include text, picture, and even video content. So you've got, you know, much more in the way of content oriented engagement tools. Also SMS text messaging. You know, most systems will have that now, but a lot of clients don't realize that it can be branded. You know, I spoke to a client recently who was using, you know, a software, and the problem with it was that if they're sending out SMS text messaging, it would go from a mobile number. But with modern technologies, those text messages can actually be branded. So they go to the members from your organization name, so that they're not getting replies back to their personal phone number and things like that. So yeah, much more customization content, and certainly in the performing arts sector. I mean, they're a creative bunch. So it is great to see their reaction when they see what they can do and how they can use it. It can be for everything from, the day-to-day communications, right through to updates to the parents on progress of the children, right through to shows that they put on. That can be videoed, and that content can be embedded, sent through via email and to members' online accounts as well. Yeah, just it's almost like a light bulb moment, and I love that part of showing the system when people say, "Oh, I could use this for this, and I could use that for that," and it is that realization of what they can do with modern tech.
And that really resonated with, I think we did some research towards the end of last year with parents. So we called it What Parents Want. If anyone wants to download the guide, it's on the website. There's some really interesting stats in there, and being kept in the loop was something that parents were generally very aligned and insistent on across the board. So even if they don't always open the first, second, or fifth email that we've sent, they have that expectation that they want to know what's going on with people who are attending, whether that's parents or whether it's, guardians or other participants, whoever's owning the account. It's a really important way to stand out and kind of keep building that trust so that people are coming back. Another thing, go on, Gabi.
I was just going to say, in terms of really important communications, if you're trying to communicate something crucial like an exam date or time, what's brilliant about the LoveAdmin email system is that you can then go in, and I know this is quite straightforward, but it's made our admin much easier, because we can see straight away which parents have actually opened that email, and any parents who haven't opened it, we can then either call them or text them and say, we sent this important email, you haven't read it, here's the information in another way. This is stuff that we don't want them to miss. And it also gives us if a parent complains that we haven't given them important information, we can say, well, look, we can see that you actually opened the email.
I've had many a conversation like that in my time. Haven't received it. Records show that you did that date, but maybe it was someone else.
It was a Saturday night at 11:53 p.m. So maybe that's why.
The other thing that came through on the What Parents Want report was around 53% of people were saying that they would be booking based on instructors and how skilled instructors were, which is obviously really important within the performing arts and the music space. Michael, what is it that you kind of talk to people about when it comes to where they can kind of really put forward and showcase the instructors that they have?
Yeah, I mean, great point. So yeah, I mean, that can be done if they want to, right on the front end. So when somebody's looking at a class, any sort of descriptive around that class or product effectively can be fully customized. And again, that can include text, picture, or even embedded video content. So how they want to communicate that offering and what they want to communicate, again, it's just fully customizable from the word go. But there's absolutely no reason clients can't create content around any sort of product specific to that individual product and promote it online through their own online shop, and easy filtering as well. I mean, that's important too. So if you're a large organization with a lot of classes, you want to make it easy for the customer to find the relevant class type or product. And again, easy filtering can be built into the system. That could be by location, could be by age group, could be by class type, or it could be, as you say, individual teacher or coach. Something I think Gabi raised previously was that, when kids come through in organizations, sometimes they like to stay with the same teacher or coach. So it's nice for parents to be able to even filter that way on products if required.
And a corollary to that is that sometimes students have to change teacher because they've gone up an age group or something like that. And we can use things like video to actually have their new teacher introduce themselves and say, oh, you know, looking forward to, and we can have a little pre-recorded video like that for students who are moving from one class to another to meet their new teacher. So that they're not coming into a room with a complete stranger, and also to show parents that all of our teachers are amazing. They all have different specializations, and that, you know, that it can be quite, you know, if you've been with the same teacher for a couple of years, to suddenly move to someone new can be, you know, a worrying time. So using video content and things like that can smooth things over a little bit.
And I would say that a lot of the content, especially about teachers and instructors, is usually available. People have that already kind of sitting somewhere hidden on their website under a kind of about us somewhere. So being able to pull that information and put it right at the front end where parents and people are looking at the courses in particular is really putting it front of mind for them instead of having to go and search for somewhere else. And Michael, you mentioned about you'd already mentioned about the legacy way of presenting classes being kind of this more list-based way of showing it. I'm guessing that the ability to filter and show things more up front is a bit more of a modern way to present now, which kind of steps up people's websites into new territories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it comes back to that customization. You know, how an individual client wants that front end journey to look. You know, that's their decision. So what I can do is show the different options that they've got, but it can be customized to the individual organization, which again, is key for communicating that organization's branding, their message. It can be customized to you as an individual.
That's really nice. That's really good. Gabi, are you using that sort of thing on your sites at the moment? I've got to ask.
Yeah, so something that I resisted for a long time was using there's like a shop. And because, again, my control freakery, I didn't want parents to be able to see what options were available. I wanted to figure out the perfect class for their child, put them into that class, and then, you know, make sure that no one was going into a class that, you know, didn't have space for them or was the wrong age group for them or things like that. But actually, it is a really useful way of having a web shop that is divided up into, you know, it's an attractive design. I've been using it a lot more for holiday clubs and for teacher training sessions. You can have a pre-approval set up, so parents can or potential LAMDA teachers can go in, book a course, and then you get a notification saying someone has got this in this basket. So you can just double check that they've definitely booked for the right product, that they haven't, you know, booked their 5-year-old in for an advanced, you know, Stanislavski class or something like that. And it's an easy way to just send someone a link to the right part of your shop, and you can brand it and use your colors and images and things like that as well. So it is really useful.
Excellent. And you talked about your teacher training there, Gabi, and I know that there's obviously a new LAMDA syllabus coming out.
Yes, it's appeared, and it starts from the 1st of August. So now is an absolutely brilliant time to become a LAMDA teacher if you're not one already. I have to say, you know, in terms of you know, increasing revenue and strategies for growing your drama school, if you're not offering speech and drama exams, then you're missing a trick, because that is the thing that gets my phone ringing. We get more unsolicited calls and emails from parents about LAMDA exams than about anything else that we offer. And if you're already teaching drama, either in schools or in a stage school or something like that, then it's another string to your bow. It's another way of getting in new students. And you don't actually need any qualifications. I get emails from potential Lambda teachers all the time saying, what training do I need to do? What courses do I need to do? And the short answer is you don't need to do any, which is really good in some ways, because it means you don't need to jump through loads of hoops and spend loads of money. But in other ways, it's a problem, because there are some pitfalls out there that new teachers are much more likely to fall into. And the last thing that we want as a drama teacher is for a student of ours to do badly in an exam because of something that we've done wrong. And there are lots of situations in the world of Lambda exams, and I'm sure the other exams as well, where that can happen. And that really is what my training courses are designed for, to give new teachers confidence that they aren't going to make mistakes. And there are lots of resources out there. There's a huge, very active Facebook group called the Lambda Teachers Sharing Forum, which is really helpful, and they've got lots of documents in their files, but everyone in the group has got different opinions and different ideas about the right way of teaching. And the fact is that there isn't one right way of teaching. So that group can also be quite confusing as well. And, you know, there are lots of messages from people saying, you know, I'm just not quite sure where to begin. So that's exactly what my Introduction to Teaching Lambda Exams course is for. And to then give them access to a community of speech and drama teachers that they can be part of, that I run. So there's a little bit of moderation, and it's not just a complete Wild West free-for-all. And so they don't feel like they're in this sort of isolated bubble. And that introduction course gives you everything that you need to get started in 4 hours. So it's a really small commitment to make that can reap big rewards, just in terms of revenue, but also just in terms of your own confidence. And then, of course, that can be followed up. I do then deep dives into particular areas of the syllabus, which are, you know, some teachers find really useful. Some teachers think after the introductory course, no, that's okay, I can run with this now. It depends on your previous experience.
And I'm guessing that you don't have to have all of your teachers being Lambda instructed. If you want to dip your toe in the water, you might have a particular instructor that's actually really interested in it, that can kind of go and start to build that Lambda interest at your academy or drama school. And then if that works really well and you kind of are like, oh, okay, we need some more hours on this, you could introduce it to others.
Yeah. So you've got a few options. You can either bring in someone to your organisation who already has experience teaching Lambda, or you can train up one of your teachers who works for you already so that they become a Lambda specialist. But I would say if you're bringing in someone else from the outside, it would be really helpful for you to do the introductory course as well. Because if you know nothing about the Lambda syllabus and how it works and what, you know, optimal group sizes are, you could get someone in who is doing things so differently from expectations, and you haven't got any way of sort of saying, well, are you sure you have to do it in this way, because they're the expert and you know nothing. So I think it can be a really useful thing for anyone who's running a stage school or bringing in a Lambda expert to also have some sort of foundational knowledge as well.
It sounds like a nice development opportunity for people within a business as well, knowing how important kind of recruiting and training the right teachers are so that you can offer that skilled instruction to people.
And there are so many ways of doing it as well. You know, you can drive around to people's houses and be like a private tutor, offering Lambda classes to them. They can come to you if you've got a room in your house. You can offer it as an add-on to a stage school. You can do it, you know, as an extracurricular opportunity within a school setting. So there are so many different ways, and there are so many different types of exams. I don't want to ignore the public speaking exams, for example. They are hugely popular, and they are a way of bringing kids into your organisation that maybe would never be seen dead in a drama class. That's not for them at all. But the idea of doing public speaking, that's a life skill. That's suddenly much more appealing to some students. So that's why I also offer the Lambda training to teachers who are already delivering Lambda classes, but maybe have shied away from certain areas of the syllabus.
I personally went through all the stage school and performing dance and all of that for about 15 years when I was younger, and I have to say the basis it's given me and the confidence it's given me for public speaking. I'm happy to go on stage in front of 500 people. You know, it still scares the living daylights out of me, but I know how to perform, as it were, which, you know, has been really helpful from a career perspective, but was from all of those hours of going to the schools and doing the exams and putting in that effort. It's been really interesting hearing from you firsthand. You can see there's so many ideas for how you've grown your business. I'm not surprised that you've seen the success that you have had, Gabi. If anybody does want to hear more from Gabi after this, we will share it in the links, but Gabi and James did a podcast last week where they actually kind of went through one of the workshops almost that James does on a monthly basis with Gabi. So you can get a feel for the kind of conversations that they're having and the topics that they're talking about. So I would really encourage people to take a listen to that. And also when we're talking about the comms and the marketing side of it, I'm the other half of the Step to Success podcast from a marketing basis. And I bring in short 10-minute mini marketing pieces to kind of complement James's growth and consultancy. So if you are looking at growing your business in that way and you want to get a bit more of an understanding on the marketing side of things, then I can support you on that. I feel like we've got time for some Q&A if there are questions in there already. So Lauren, do you want to fire off the first question for us?
Yeah, so we had a couple come in prior to the webinar. The first one I'll direct at Gabi first, but I think James might also have a good perspective on this. But how do you get your team on board with changes within your organization?
You just tell them what's going to happen and they've got to get in line, or no. So I would say one of the reasons that the playing space has been a success is because I'm really good at finding fantastic teachers who do a brilliant job. And when you find a teacher like that, you got to hold on to them. So, you know, a lot of the teachers at the playing space have been working for us for 10 years or more because I'm a good boss. And alongside that, of course, you don't want to just make decisions and then say to them, this is how it's going to be. I think making sure that you can say, look, I've had this idea. I think it's going to work. Can you spot anything that I haven't seen? Because they're out there. I teach as well, but I only teach a few classes. A lot of them are teaching in different environments to me or different age groups to me. So I think picking their brains and coming up with something that everyone is already on board with, rather than forcing change on people.
Nice. James, your perspective?
Yeah, I think Gabi's absolutely right in what she's saying, and getting the team on board with a change before you make it is really, really important. I think the one thing I would say is that it should also never be a democracy. So there should absolutely be collaboration, but you need to be the one that's setting that initial direction, setting what the ultimate goal is that you want to achieve, and then allowing the team to help guide the kind of path to achieving that. Because as Gabi said, they will know your customers, they'll know your parents better than anyone else, because they're interacting with them all the time.
Perfect. We've got a couple more come through. So Gabi, this one's for you. What's the biggest learning that you've taken from trying new things, good or bad?
I can't think of a particular example of where something has gone, oh, okay, yes, we did try something where, I'm sure there are lots of other drama teachers who are watching today who know that one of the biggest frustrations is people leaving without giving notice and possibly owing money as well. And so we decided to combat that by introducing a late fee. So if you didn't pay your fees on time, we would add, I don't know, 15 quid or whatever to the bill to try and encourage parents to get on board. It didn't work. It didn't actually make a difference to a number of parents who were paying on time. And then when we added the late fee, we just got so many complaints and parents refusing to pay it, and it just created bad feeling. So what we then did is we put our fees up. But we said, if anyone pays on time, you can beat the pay rise. We won't charge you the higher fee. So, and that worked much better. So there's something about nudging people with a carrot rather than with a stick that I think is true. People like to feel like they're saving money rather than being penalized. So I would say the biggest learning is to, learn from your mistakes. Absolutely. Just because you think that a late fee is a brilliant idea, if it doesn't actually have the desired effect, and we're coming straight back to what James said right at the beginning, which is making decisions based on data. You have to try something, see if it works. If it don't work, don't cling to it because you thought it was a good idea.
Perfect. James, I think you'll probably be best to answer this one. So this one is a question from Ed saying, if moving to monthly payment, a lot of our planning, including the curriculum, would still be around a term, the 12-week block. For new families joining, how can you encourage commitment for at least a term, even if they're paying monthly and therefore haven't committed financially to the term?
So there's a couple of different solutions to this one. One is trying to find a way of being able to bill monthly whilst also getting financial commitment, of which there is a solution for that. The other way, the way I prefer, is getting them to commit through not wanting to miss out, that kind of whole FOMO thing, where if you communicate and tell the full story of what being a customer entails across a curriculum, across a term, across a year, and make it so irresistible that they don't want to leave, and appeal to a child's passion and their ability to kick and scream and tug on their parents' sleeve, then they're not going to leave, because no parent will willingly upset their child by pulling them out of a lesson because they want to cancel a direct debit. I think it's highly unlikely. So that would be the first route that I would go down, because I think it has other benefits aside from just stopping people from leaving after a month. The other option, the kind of financial commitment option, is to introduce an upfront fee. So you can still bill people monthly, but you effectively take a bit of a non-refundable deposit up front, and you take that off the cost of all of the preceding months across a year. So across a 12-month period, they're still paying exactly the same amount. There's no price increase. You're just getting a slug of that money up front to help engender a financial commitment. So if they were to leave midway through, they're going to be financially worse off. Whereas if they get to the end of the 12-month period, then they reach the same end point that they would have done anyway.
Do you believe that there would be a carrot approach, just feeling inspired from Gabi's last learning that she gave to us? Is there some form of carrot approach that you can apply where if people are attending a certain amount, then it means that there is an added value or added benefit that they can get? Or in Gabi's way, she was like, well, we'll up the prices, but actually we'll give you the original rate. Is there a way that if someone has committed to pay monthly and they've kind of paid those months, then there's like a level of discount when they're kind of signing up for the next term, as it were, or something like that?
I always encourage organizations to steer away from giving revenue away as a retention tactic, because I find it can become a bit of a race to the bottom, and actually all that happens is you're just giving away the money that you fought so hard to earn. I much prefer the value add tactic, and that could take the form of like a 1-year anniversary gift where they get a T-shirt that says I've been there for a full year, or something along that would probably be a bit corny, but something along those sorts of lines where you're giving people additional value for being with you over a longer period of time, that isn't a discount. If all else fails, the discount is always there as your like worst case scenario thing to use. I wouldn't lead with it because, as I say, I find it becomes a bit of a race to the bottom.
T-shirts work really well. My son loves his performing arts, and every term after the play, he gets almost like a backstage, like crew member t-shirt for the latest thing he's done, and he will like see that term through just to make sure he gets the next t-shirt, even if he doesn't particularly like that term's play. He'll be like, oh, but I want the t-shirt. I'm like, okay, we'll carry on then, learn your lines.
Yeah, it's that stuff like that, stuff they can take into school and show off with, is really, really powerful.
And I was going to say, coming back to Ed's question, you know, if you always have the next thing. So, for example, we had a parent recently who was going to pull her son out of classes because at the moment this term is our skills term and the teacher is doing circus skills with the students, and he wasn't enjoying it. So we're obviously not going to change our curriculum because one child doesn't like a particular skill that we're doing and the other kids in the group were loving it. Also, he hadn't told us that he wasn't enjoying it, so it was useful information. But we were able to say to her, well, you know, we're actually coming to the end of that now, and we're about to start Lambda work or whatever the next, you know, our festival of drama or whatever the next big project is. And so always making sure that something else is coming. One of the problems that we have, I don't know if this is relevant, is that because we have our Lambda term in the autumn term and students taking exams in December, parents who are very, very focused on exam work will pull their kids out of class as soon as we finish Lambda. So they don't do any of the festival work that we do. And then they bring them back in June, which is when we start focusing on the next Lambda exam. And so there are two ways I have of dealing with that. One is to say, well, I can't guarantee that you will definitely get a place if you return. If the class is full, the class is full. We do, I will always say, look, we will prioritise returning students. Number two is they may not be able to then go up to the next grade. You know, if you're studying piano at grade 5 and then you want to do grade 6, you can't take 6 months off from your lessons and expect to go back in at exactly the same point that you left. And the third thing that we've now offered is that we have a sort of like an elite festival group that go off and do competitive festivals in this area. And the very parents who are most likely to pull kids out because they're not doing exam work and they don't want to do the kind of what they see as the softer, you know, group work, are more likely to actually say, oh, actually, but I do want my kid to be doing competitive festivals. So there are a few ways of making sure that parents see the value in what you're, in the whole picture of what you're doing, not just one aspect of it.
Hopefully that helped answer your question, Ed. Are there any other questions in there, Lauren, or are we bang on time?
We are bang on time, yeah, unless there's any other questions anyone has, if they put them in the chat. The only other question that we thought of before was, if anyone's interested in the Lambda trading with Gabi, where do they go? How do they find out a little bit more about it?
You can go to my LoveAdmin online shop.
That's brilliant. I like that.
We'll be sending people information out about it. So I think if you do a Google search for the Playing Space teacher training, then we will come up. But I'm sure you'll all get the information you need from a follow-up email.
If anybody wants to rewatch this session or think it'll be helpful for any of the members of their team, we will be sharing out the recording once we finish today. And we'll also follow up with some more details of Gabi and the Lambda work, the podcasts that are a really good follow-up for this. And if anyone has any questions at that point, please do feel free to respond. And yeah, we will answer any future questions you think of at the time. Thank you so much for joining us over lunch. I hope those of you who haven't eaten yet now can quickly go and grab a bite to eat and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Gabi, James, Michael.